Hi guys, Ms. Powell here, and we are starting our new unit, which covers the transformations. Transformations. There are four different types of transformations, and this first page is just a quick cheat sheet that will be very helpful when it is time to take your test. So I'm going to go through this page quickly. The transformations, there are four different types. We have translations, which is going to be the first topic we cover. Then we're going to move on to reflections. After reflections, we're going to move on to rotations. And after rotations, we will move on to dilations. So really quickly, let's discuss. Translations take one image and it simply slides it across your grid. Okay, a translation slide. This SL in translations goes with this SL in slide. Translations slide goes from one place and just slide it across. For our reflections take an image and flip it across the line. It can either flip it across the y-axis or it can flip it across the x-axis. So this FL in reflections will remind you to flip, FL in flip, okay? Rotations, take it and turn. It continues to turn around the grid. So the T in rotation tells you the T in turn. It turns it around. It can go 90 degrees, 180, 270, or back to 360. We rotate in 90-degree increments. And then dilations either enlarge or reduce. It makes it get bigger or it makes it get smaller. Okay. Another quick thing I want to go over is how to tell the difference between your original image, which is your pre-image, and your new image, which is your image. So your original, as you can see, do not have an apostrophe right there. Your image or your new has the apostrophe. So it starts out with no apostrophe and then moves to the apostrophe. Like this one, started here because it's no apostrophe. This was the original image or the pre-image. It was the pre-whatever, pre-slide, pre-flip, pre-turn. Before you did anything, this is what you started with. And then you move to this one. You started here and moved here, started here and turned here. And then you started with the bigger one and reduced to the smaller one here. Okay, next we're going to go to our rules. And this is going to be the game changer for you when it comes to your test taking because a lot of the um, test is rules. So if your X, remember your X on your grid goes left to right. So if your X is positive or you're adding to your X, you're going right. If you are subtracting from your X, you're going left. Remember your Y goes up and down. So if you are adding to your Y, you're going up. And if you're subtracting from your Y, you're going down. Literally think of a grid. Okay, this is your X, this is your Y. This is your positive numbers, this is your negative. This is your positive, this is your negative. So if your X is positive, you're going to the right. If your X is negative, you're going to the left. If your Y is positive, you're going up. If your Y is negative, you're going down. Same concept. Next, we have reflections. You can either reflect over the x-axis or you can reflect over the y-axis. Those are the only two axes that we reflect over. So you're going to either reflect across your y, or you can take this smiley face and flip it down and reflect across your x. If you reflect over your y-axis, your y variable stays the same, or your y coordinate stays the same, while your x becomes opposite. Don't think of that negative as a negative y. That is an opposite. So that becomes opposite, okay? If you reflect over your y-axis, your x becomes opposite, your y remains the same. So what does that mean? If we were here, let's just say that this point right here would be over 3 up 1. And then we're going to reflect over here. So now we're going to be at over to -3, but we still go up to 1. So as you can see, when you reflect over your x-axis, your x becomes the opposite, but your y becomes the same. I'm sorry, when you reflect over your y-axis, your x becomes opposite, your y remains the same. So basically, whatever you reflect over, that's what stays the same. If you reflect over the x, x stays the same. You reflect over the y stays the same, and the other one becomes the opposite. Okay. Next, we have the rotations, and we deal with mostly the primary three, because 360 degrees, you're back at your original spot. So we do 90 degree, 180 degree, and 270 degree. I'm not going to go in detail with these because we're going to learn about rotations on rotation day, but these are the rules. So if you do a 90-degree clockwise, your y comes first and your x becomes opposite. 180, your x and y stays the same, but they both become opposite. And 270, your y comes first, becomes opposite, and then your x afterwards. Just remember that 90 degrees clockwise is the same thing as 270 degrees counterclockwise. 180 degrees clockwise is the same thing as 180 degrees counterclockwise. And 270 degrees clockwise is the same thing as 90 degrees counterclockwise. And you'll learn more about that on rotation day. Lastly, for dilations, your scale factor is your n. So your scale factor goes in front of your x and your y. When you dilate, you have to dilate both your x coordinate and your y coordinate. You can't just dilate one. So that's why the new number goes there. So for instance, if we're dilating by 2, it will be 2x, comma, 2y. And you'll see more about that later. Scale factor, I'm not going to go into because that's a dilation day. Congruency. Congruent means to stay the same shape and the same size. The ones that stay the same shape and same size is your translations, reflections, and rotations. Dilations get bigger or smaller, so it's not staying congruent. And then the orientation of a figure, which we'll talk about more later. The direction a figure is facing on a coordinate plane. And the only ones that keep this is translations and dilations. When you flip across, your orientation changes. And when you start turning your shape, your orientation changes. So the only ones that keep their orientation is a translation, because you're simply just sliding it around, and a dilation because it either just get bigger or smaller. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get started into the translations notes, which is for today. Translations on a coordinate plane. So a translation moves every point of a figure the same direction and the same distance. A translation can move a figure left and right, or up and down, or up and down. So it's either going to go left or right, and then it's going to go up or down. Okay. Translations are also thought of as slides, which is what we talked about earlier. So your x coordinates determine the point, if the point slides right or left. So if it's positive, it goes right. If it's negative, it goes left. And your y coordinate determines if the point slides up or down. If it's positive, it goes up. If it's negative, it goes down. So sometimes what they'll do is they'll give you the ordered pair of your pre-image. So my pre-image is originally at 0, -8. And then this is the rule, x minus 5, y plus 7. By this, we can tell that the description, since our x is negative, we're going to the left, and then 5. And since our y is positive, we're going up 7. So then when you go to do your work, you're going to take your x and y from right here, plug it into this rule, and this is what you have. And then you solve, and that's how you'll determine where your new image is at. Okay, so let's try it again. We have our pre-image, which is at 10, -14. The rule is x plus 6, y minus 5. So since our x is positive, that tells us we're going to the right. And it's 6 times. And since our y is negative, that tells us we're going down. And it's 5 times. So now we're going to do our work. We're going to take this x and y that's right here, and plug it into the x and the y that's right here. So my x is 10. And then the rule says plus 6, so x plus 6, comma, my y is -14. And the rest of my rule is y minus 5. So now I have my work done. So now I'm going to go ahead and find out my new x. My x is at 10 plus 6. 10 plus 6 is 16. My y is at negative 14 minus 5. So negative 14 minus 5 is going to be a negative 19. So that will be my new point. Okay. Next, we have negative 2, 16 is where we're starting. So I will go left 2, up 16 and put a point. Then I have a rule that says x plus 2, y plus 5. So this is telling me how to get to my new point. I need to go x plus 2, which is right 2. And then I need to go y plus 5, which is up 5. And see where I will be located. So now I'm going to take my original points and plug it into this x and y to do my work. So my x is negative 2. So I have negative 2 plus 2, comma, my y was 16 plus 5. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. And 16 plus 5 is 21. So that's what my new point would be. Okay, that is one way to finding out how to go from your pre-image to your image. Okay, now that we have that, we're going to go through some more information on how to find it if you have a graph, because you will get graph paper on the STAR test. And if you would like a piece of graph paper on your test, you can just print one out and use that. But here we go. It says the pre-image was translated to create the image. So the pre-image is the one without the apostrophe, and the image is the one with the apostrophe. So this one right here with all these apostrophes, that's my image. That's my new shape. The one without it is the original. So it says both images have congruent side lengths and congruent angles. Since it is a translation, the side lengths and the angles are exactly the same. So B, our B was originally at, I went over to 6 and up to 7. And that's how I got my B, 6, 7. Okay. Now my description means describe how I'm moving. So I'm just going to use the B. I could have used both of the A's or both of the C's, but I'm going to use both of the B's because they're right here on top. So to go from my original B to my new B, I am first off going to the left. I'm moving left to get to it. So I know it's left. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Left 5. And then I need to go down 1, 2. So my rule is going to be, I'm going to start off with my original XY, and then I'm going to translate to X. Since I'm going to the left, that's negative 5. And then my Y, I went down, so that's negative 2. And my new B is at 1, 5. And I can't really see that, but if I wanted to check it, I can go 6 minus 5 is 1, and 7 minus 2 is 5. So that's right. Okay. Now we are determining the description. Description is how are we moving? Are we going left or right, up or down, and how many times? So they gave us our pre-image, they gave us our image, and we need to come up with the description. Sometimes I like to draw a little grid right here just for visual sake, because I can say, okay, I went over to 5 and up down to 3. And that would be 5, negative 3. And then I went over to negative 7 and up to 9. So negative 7, comma 9. And I can kind of see how many times I moved. So to go from this one to this one, from here to here, I first off need to go left. So I know I'm going to the left. And I'm going to go left 5 and then 7 more. So 7 and 5 is 12. So I went left 12. And then to go from here to here, I have to go up. So I'm going to go up. I went up 3, and then I went up 9 more, and 9 plus 3 is 12. So left 12, up 12 would be my description. Okay. I'm going to change my colors just so I can see my points. So I'm going to go, and as you can see, I'm not getting perfect points, but I'm doing around and about, but I'm using my numbers to count and make sure I'm going the right way and or the right amount of times. So I'm going to go left -2 and down -6. And this is -2, comma, -6. And then I'm going to go right 5 and down 3. And then this is 5, comma, -3. And I'm going from this one to this one, from here to here. So one thing that I know is I have to go right and I have to go up. So right and up, and then I'll get my numbers. So I'm going to go to the right. 2 plus 5 is 7. And then I'm going to go up from -6 to -3. So I'm only going up 3 times. Okay? Because -6 and then -5, -4, -3, 3 times. Change my colors one more time. So now I'm going to go left 3 up 6, left 3 up 6, and that's going to be my -3, 6. And then I'm going to go right 2, down 4. This is my 2, -4. So one thing I know is I have to go to the right and I have to go down because this is my original image. This is my pre-image. So I have to go right and down. So right and down. So I'm going to go right 3 plus 2, which is 5. And I'm going down 6 plus 4, which is 10. Okay. Right 5, down 10. And now here we are determining the rule. So to get the rule is pretty much the same thing. Our rule will be in the format of X, comma, Y. I need to find out if I'm adding or subtracting. Am I going left or right? And then how many times? So I'm going to draw another makeshift graph. I am starting off going to -4 and +3. And I'm going to +5 and -2. So to go from this point to this point, I definitely have to go to the right. So my X is being added. And then I have to go down. So my Y is being subtracted. Okay, so now I need to find out how many times. I'm going to go over 4. And I need to go over 5 more, which is 9. I need to go down 3 and then down 2 more, which is 5. Okay, I'm definitely just using these numbers. So to go from here to 0, I had to go 4 times. And then to go from 0 to 5, I had to go 5 more times. And that's why I did 4 plus 5, which gave me 9. And then from here, I need to go down 3 times to get to 0. And then I need to go down 2 more times to get to the -2. So that's why I did 3 plus 2 and got 5. Okay. Next, I'm going to go to 4. So +4, +11, about right here, will be 4, 11. And then +6, a little past it, down 5. So this would be my 6, -5. So to go from this point, which is the 4, 11, to this point, I have to go to the right and I have to go down. So my X is being added, my Y is being subtracted. Right and down. So to go from 4 to 6, I'm going to go right 2 times. And then to go from 11 to 0, that's 11 times. And 0 to 5, that's 5 times. So 11 plus 5 is 16. And my last one, I have -2. So -2, +3. -2, 3. And then +1, +4, 1, 4. So to go here, I have to go to the right and then up. So X plus is my right, and then y plus is my up. So to go from -2 to 0, I have to go -2 times, and then 0 to 1 is one more, so that's x plus 3. And then my y, I'm going from 3 up to 4, so that's up one time. And that's it. So for translations, again, it is just a bunch of sliding points around. We literally just took this point and slid it over and up to create that point. And you're counting how many times did you go left or right, or how many times did you go up or down. Good luck, guys. Use your notes throughout your assignments and do your best.